Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Crooked Illness. Today's episode will be a conversation between my guest, Michelle Miranda, and I about the creation of her magazine, Miranda Girl, and the events that led to the birth of the magazine. Michelle is someone I was thankful I ran into while I was on a night out with friends, and we instantly had this connection when she handed me her business card and told me a little about her magazine. I was very interested to hear more about her story and the inspiration behind the magazine, along with how it came to be what it is now. So without further ado, welcome Michelle Miranda to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here this morning.
Of course, excited to have you and to hear you come on and share your story with us. So let's get right into it. So tell me about Miranda Girl magazine and how it relates to your story.
Well, as you know, my name is Michelle Miranda, but the magazine goes much further than just addressing my name. Last couple of years have been some of the biggest challenges, the biggest evolution in my life, and going through a very difficult breakup, very difficult divorce. I have 3 children, one with special needs, and found myself at a crossroads of who am I? I mean, my identity had been connected to someone else for so long that I had this moment where I had to figure out who I was. And that was kind of the birth of who Miranda Girl, the term, is. And, does she rise? Does she keep going? Does she stay down and defeated? And that was that crossroads moment.
Yeah. So can you tell me more about so when you were going through the divorce and you mentioned how you were, when you were with your husband, you were doing a lot of the things you told me about is that you were doing everything for him and your family and not so much for you or yourself. So with Miranda Girl and with the magazine and the creation of that, how did you transition from the place you were in where you weren't really living your passion, doing what you loved, to doing what you love now?
I've heard this quote, and it's that there's 2 important moments in your life, and that's the day you were born and the moment you figure out why.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for the last 18 years, that's my oldest son, I had been living to someone else's dream, supporting someone else's company and their vision. And when you're knocked, off your feet and you're stuck in the mud, you have a moment to really figure out, are you going to rise or are you going to stay in the mud crawling along and playing victim? And I was left literally with nothing after the divorce. It was very painful. And the transition certainly didn't come easy, but we don't grow during our easy moments. And I, was down in the dumps and pity me. And finally it hit me. Like, this is a moment that can be totally miraculous and very special, because now I have a blank canvas and I can do whatever I want. I can figure out my passion. I can go after it, and I don't have anybody stopping me but myself. And that's when I combined a bunch of the things that I love and am passionate about, and then was born Miranda Girl magazine.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me the passions that you had were English, right? English literature, writing, what you did in school, and then your passion for helping other women. So you really combined that because you loved writing, you loved doing all that stuff, and you how did you, do you remember the moment when you decided to do the magazine? What
it's
was
interesting.
that?
People ask me that, and I don't feel like there was, and it's kind of funny, like I don't remember. And then I kind of step back sometimes and I play it over in my head. And there was I feel like a lot of little windows that were opening up. And then I would hit a dead end of, meeting somebody that had these ideas to help me, be noticed on Instagram or, different things like that. And I was asked to then represent a clothing line. And then I got back into modeling, and I would often write just to get through my tough times. I've been doing it since I was a kid, but kind of everywhere I looked, and all these little windows kept closing. And it was simply a step to get me to where I needed to be. And some gentleman out of the blue told me about this program online. I've never met him. And he was showing me all the things that it does and said, you know what, there's a magazine feature on there. Maybe you should do that. And it was just
Wow.
kind of like this light bulb. And of course I'm thinking, I have no idea how to do that. But there was something that just grew from there. That was the little spark. And this guy helped me out for a little bit and then literally disappeared.
Wow.
Disappeared.
Wow.
So it was magical. And the moment I decided that, it was as though all these new doors opened. And it was then beyond my control.
Yeah. Well, I remember you telling me about that and how, like how you started the magazine. So I really want you to talk about, so what does it mean to you to be a Miranda girl? What does that mean?
So, it's funny because some people have brought up the fact that it's my name, and it really has nothing to do with that. It is kind of a term that I thought, a Miranda girl is a man or a woman that has been to hell and back, and maybe even multiple times. And she doesn't let it keep her down. I mean, we all fall down millions of times in our life, but what counts is that 1,000,001st time that we get up. And that's a Miranda girl, someone that's been to hell and back, everything tested, but they get up, they rise to the occasion, they rise out of the ashes, they crawl out of the mud, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You don't allow the victimization feeling to take over, because they recognize that we all are in control of our destiny, and the only thing holding us back is ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, no, because exactly what you said, I agree with you 100%, is that most people don't understand that what's really holding you back from, maybe pursuing something you love, doing something you're passionate about is us. We're the ones who are doing that. So, what was it like for you when you created the first issue?
I was terrified because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it also, I felt empowered. And that is like a huge, I guess, word that I focus on a lot in the magazine is empowerment. So many of us focus on, we blame our past, we blame our parents, we blame our circumstances, we blame, depression, we blame a medical issue, we blame our friends, we blame, the hand that we were dealt. Instead of stepping back and saying that, none of that has anything to do with your destiny. And so even on the scary days where I wasn't sure what I was doing, I'd get up, move forward, stay focused and centered. And honestly, I realized that this magazine was much bigger than me, because people came into my life at the right moment, kind of how I met you. And I've never had to find, a cover story. These people have just popped up. And so the first magazine was exhilarating. It was terrifying, but most of all, realizing I could do it because I decided to was the most empowering moment I think I've ever felt.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me about when you did the first issue, and we talked about vulnerability and how, when you did that, the first issue was really you, right? Your story, the things that you went through, and you putting that out there. And we talked about, the power in doing that, and the power in, authentically telling your story and then putting that out there. And it's a hard thing to do, and it's not an easy thing to do, but can you talk about that a little bit, along with what did you put in that first issue when you did that?
So the magazine is centered around, telling people stories and empowering and inspiring and lifting and bringing people together. And I can't expect the people that I'm telling their stories to be raw if I can't be raw myself. And, I used to think that being vulnerable was a weakness. And what I realized is it's actually a strength, and it takes courage to be vulnerable. And so I wanted to be completely raw. So I told my story in the magazine and the things that I've gone through. And I've had a lifetime of challenges, pain, depression, abuse, even a suicide attempt. And I don't want to hide from those, because it's those horrible, dark moments that brought me to here and now. And that's what I wanted people to see, is that even through the darkness, the pain, the sweat, the tears, you can still become whatever you want to become. And those are the moments you grow, not the easy moments. You don't grow during the easy times.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted people to see, the raw me, the real me.
Yeah. So really bringing that to light and putting that in the first issue and having people understand, like, this is me, this is my story. And I think that relates so much to how you described Miranda Girl, as someone who's been through this, had these different things happen, and then, but they're still making it through. They're still doing what they want. They're still going after, you know, the things that they love in their life, regardless of the circumstances that they were in or the things that they've been through. And, you know, I just think that's really cool, you know, the fact that you did that. And I agree with you. I really agree with you about vulnerability, and that, you know, I feel like sometimes still people look at that as a weakness, you know, because when obviously, you know, if you're out here talking about like, you know, really sensitive things that happen to you, some people might view that as like not a good thing, right? They might look at that and say, okay, you know, maybe you shouldn't talk about that. Maybe you shouldn't put that out there. Maybe we should change the subject. Maybe you shouldn't be doing that. But I think, you know, I really agree with you, is because when you talk about those moments, right? Because I think, to me at least, I feel like it's more meaningful to hear people's struggles and the moments that they were at their lowest to see where they are now, right? To really understand the evolution of how you became who you are.
Right, right. And I feel like when we're at those low moments, we feel very alone. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't want to talk about it because things have become so taboo. And that's why we have an increase in depression and suicide, because people feel ashamed. And what's been amazing is allowing people to see that their weaknesses make them beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and that their weaknesses should be talked about, because those can be turned into strengths. And that's then where we connect with other people, is
Mm-hmm.
connecting through our trials, connecting through our triumphs and victories, and, you know, really becoming a family, because we're all on this earth together. We're all struggling. We're all, you know, trying to get through and trying to find our purpose and trying to just be happy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and if we can't talk about the opposite, then, you know, we're just basically faking it every day. And that gets exhausting.
Yeah. No, I remember, because I remember last time we talked, you were telling me that I think you had a girl who came to you with her story, right? And I think she didn't want to share a certain part of the story. And I remember, here, you tell the story. How did the story go? You told me
Yeah,
this.
no, I wanted to do a segment on teens, because this year, you know, our seniors in high school have had a really hard time. They didn't get the normal graduation, and, you know, they had to grow up really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to kind of highlight those children and show that, you know, they're real and raw, and we all go through things, especially that age, adolescence. And so there was a particular couple of teenagers that I wanted to highlight, you know, because they had come a long way. And she had accomplished so much. She was heading into college a year early and was living her passion already, and was part of all these charities. The thing is she wasn't willing to be vulnerable and share what she had come through to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I feel like all of us look at that and we just go, okay, yeah, let's, you know, brag about our accomplishments. But it's those moments of pain, those moments of hurt that we can all relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of inspires us to say, maybe I can share my story, or if she got through it, maybe I can, because we all don't have the same stories, but we have similar aspects in our stories that bind us together, the ties that bind us together.
Yeah. And so related to that, I know last time also when we spoke, you said something, I wrote it down. You said something, this quote that you said that I thought was really powerful. And I want to hear you just describe it. So you said, the spread of hate can be contagious if you don't recognize it.
Yeah. I mean, look around our world right now. I feel like it's so much easier when we're afraid of something we don't understand, when we're afraid of our current reality. Our first reaction is connected to fear is anger. That's a coping mechanism. And, you know, just as love spreads, so does anger and hate. And if you don't recognize it, it grows like wildfire. I mean, look at our world right now. It's so much more difficult for people to stop and actually try to be empathetic, sympathetic, understand, love, that people just turn the other cheek. They don't try to acknowledge or understand. And I feel like we're in a society of pushing the blame outward. You know, I'm unhappy, it's because I have an awful neighbor or horrible parents, instead of realizing that change, that love has to start from within. And, you know, it's like kill them with kindness. If you do that every day and lead with love, that's what you're going to spread. But so many people find it easier to just be miserable and forget about all their blessings, but point out everything that's wrong around them. And I mean, look around. It's everywhere in our world today. And it's disheartening and sad.
Yeah. And I remember you told me, when you check social media, when you're out watching the news, reading newspaper, you see a lot of things and a lot of stories that are targeted more towards, things that are wrong, or this, this isn't right, or this is negative. And I feel like one thing you said to me that I thought was like, that just hit me like that. I'm like, this is so true, is that when you don't understand something, like if someone is talking about, struggling with depression or dealing with anxiety, and someone's listening and they don't know what that is, or they don't understand depression or know a lot about it, they kind of try to avoid it, right? Avoid it, change the subject, not really pay much attention to it. And I feel like we talked about that. And, when people are, sharing their story or bringing up different things, and if someone doesn't, necessarily understand it, or has never gone through that, or has never experienced that, or doesn't know anybody who has, then they kind of, don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, first and foremost, the media and everybody else makes money off of drama. They make money off of pain. They make money off of showing the worst and telling that gruesome story. It's kind of like the train wreck. Everybody slows down to watch it. And unfortunately, the media has taken that and blown it up 100 times. And so that fills the airways. So first and foremost, it's like, turn that stuff off and humble yourself. I remember before my daughter was born, my daughter has Down syndrome. And whenever I encountered someone with Down syndrome, I was afraid of what I didn't understand. And I recognized that if we take that time to just step back and are humble and teachable, that the whole world opens up. And now that I see my daughter out in the world, people that take their time to acknowledge her and learn about her, I can tell that their hearts are changed. And it's a beautiful transformation. And I do still see some people that turn their other cheek, and that's fine. That's where they're at in their life. But it's so much easier, like I said, to walk away when we should be trying to understand each other in that situation and opening our minds and hearts. I feel like this world would be such an amazing place if we could all do that, but it all starts here and not with your neighbor or your friend or your grandma or whatever. It all starts within ourselves.
And I feel like, the point that you just brought up right there is that, when someone turns the other way, it's because it's within them, right? And I feel like that's a huge thing to recognize, is to not take things so personally, right? When they can't connect with you, they can't understand you, they can't relate to you, because, that has to deal with where they are right now in their life. And, it's all, with how they perceive it and how, they're just where they are. And I think that's a huge thing, because I feel like it's a lot easier, I think, to take things personally, right?
Oh, we all do. And it's in one of my favorite books, The 4 Agreements. I mean, that simple concept, never take things personal. There would be so much less offenses, and this person offended me and this person crossed the line. But, and as women too, and that's what I highlight in my magazine, is to walk forward with love, with your head held high, and love yourself. Because the moment you realize that when you get judgments from others, it's from their perception, from their level of consciousness, their state of being, has nothing to do with you. The judgments against you have nothing to do with you. And the moment you really understand that and embrace it, you have taken your power back and you are unstoppable. And I think that's really difficult, especially for women. We take that criticism, and women criticize each other's bodies and careers and, color, religion, everything. And I think the moment we realize that when someone judges you, it has nothing to do with you, but where they're at, that is a very powerful moment in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, it is so true. All of that it's so true. And I mean, another thing that you said to me last time we talked, you said, I wrote it down again. So, cause you said a lot of good stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to write this stuff down. So you said this, okay. So this day and age, there are so many divisions where we judge people and feel we don't have anything in common with them. So what is your magazine doing to help with this feeling of division?
I feel like magazine, radio, songs, media, even movies, they continue to highlight the differences in opinion and politics, religion, color, where we're at in life. And I mean, it's everywhere. And what I wanted to do was create this digital publication that recognized our similarities, that recognized that we're all part of humanity. We're all in this together. We're all God's children. So I tell people stories, and before each magazine is released, I host an event because I want people to meet the writers. I want them to meet who we have our ads about, those company owners, because we highlight local companies and businesses, family-owned businesses. I also bring the people I'm writing the stories about, and I feel like just bringing people together, it just erases those dividing lines that are out there and brings community back together. So we're not hiding behind the computer screen. We're not hiding behind our phones, but we're actually interacting and realizing that we all have a common ground if we choose to see it and embrace it.
Wow. Yeah. And I love the fact that you do that with what you're doing. You have these events to bring people together who are in the issue, who you're writing about, to have people come in and, actually get to know each other and meet each other and have to have conversation, to see that there is more in common. I really like that. That's it kind of seems like what the overarching message of what you're doing is to identify the commonalities instead of focusing on the differences, right? Because I feel like you said, it's so true, is that everywhere you look, whether that's online, whether that's, in print or whatever you're reading or looking at, it's more common to hear and see things that are focusing on differences that people have, right? So I like that the fact that what you do is you are, you're shedding a light on something more positive, something different than that, than focusing on that.
Yeah. I wanted to be different. I wanted to bring something completely different to the table and really try to offer people some nuggets of wisdom and to showcase our local heroes. I mean, there's a wonderful woman that one of my first stories was about who had polio at a young age and ended up paralyzed. She has no use of her arms. And the wonderful thing about her is she doesn't use that as an excuse. She taught herself how to paint with her feet and lives alone, no use of her arms whatsoever. And she is a magnificent artist. And just by showcasing her, it showed that people can get through anything if they decide to. And, people wanted just to come in and meet her and meet this woman. And that to me is amazing because she's not out on a stage every weekend or being showcased anywhere or highlighted or whatever. And yet her story has touched so many. And that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah. That's what I like probably the most about what you're doing, is that you basically created a space for people to express the things in their lives that are the most important to them. The things that they went through that, whether it's their passion, the things that they went through that were difficult, challenging, whatever that is. And I really like how, when we were talking about that, when I first met you, you were like, hey, like, here's my card. And I remember, looking at your card and I was like, wow, I was like, this is cool. I'm like, cause it's not every day you come in contact, with people who are, doing that. And I was like, I want to talk, I'm going to talk to her about this. So I was like, I want to have her come on here and talk about what she's doing with this magazine. Cause I like that. So, tell us, what are you doing next with Miranda Girl? Are you working on anything right now that you're doing to put together?
Yeah, I mean, I had to, unfortunately, because my magazine is so new, I had to kind of pivot a little bit during this pandemic and adjust, especially, for my family. But Miranda Girl's still there. Right now, we're just doing bi-weekly newsletters to kind of give people nuggets of information, but I will have an end of the year issue that's going to come out. And I was actually a topic came to me today, and that's kind of how I've addressed my magazine in the next issue, is I let things just come to me. And, I've realized that there are so many groups of people right now that are being thought of in such a negative light. And I want to kind of change that. So I have some really cool things that I'm thinking about that will come out probably October or November.
Okay.
Probably November for a big holiday issue. I'll do my big end of the year issue, holiday issue, to hopefully just shed a little bit of hope, that end of the tunnel light, that, silver lining to people. This has probably been the hardest year for a lot of people, businesses, families, just everything. And I don't want that to be the focus of 2020. I'd like to kind of end it on a positive note. So I'm going to do everything in my power for the final issue this year to just hopefully make people smile and give them hope and increase their faith and give them things to look forward to and work on in the coming year. You can't change what's happening outside of us in the different cities or with groups in our world, but we can all change what's happening within the walls of our home and within ourselves. And that's where the change starts. So that's what I want to inspire people, is that positivity, that hope, that faith that I feel like is lacking in this world today.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something that we need a lot more of, especially right now and with this whole year. And like you mentioned, everything that's been happening, that's been going on. I think that's amazing that you're going to put that together to kind of end the year on a more positive note with, like what you said, things to look forward to, highlighting, the good things. So I feel like it's so much easier, like we said already, to focus on what's not working, what did we lose, what's negative, what's going wrong, and I feel like we get ourselves so worked up, almost in like a spiral of, this sucks, this is not good, I can't do this, I can't, this is all these different things. And I feel like, to have something that you created where you're giving people an outlet to look into that and to read these stories and to see what you're putting out there that is positive and is helpful and is like a good thing to have. I think that's so needed right now. So
yeah, it definitely, I feel like my biggest thing is what you focus on is what you feed, and what you feed grows. And if you're focusing on the lack of and the things that have gone wrong and the things that are not working out this year, or the things that have been lost or taken away from you, that's the path you're taking. And that will, keep happening. That'll be your focus. And that will be, the only thing you can see. And I want to feed the other side of it that hasn't been fed very much this year, the positivity, the gratitude. I mean, no matter where we're at in life, and if we've lost everything, there is still so many things that we can wake up and acknowledge every day that we're grateful for. And when you do that, that continues to grow. And I've noticed it in my own life. I practice what I preach, and I do that every single morning. I write down the things that I'm grateful for. And I know that once I start my day with like a spirit of love and gratitude, that grows. And days that I don't, that negativity is always going to find a way in or look for a way in. And as long as you are covered in the armor of love, gratitude, faith, and hope, you're not going to let that other stuff in, because fear wants to win, and, and it will. But I don't want people to start their day or go out in this world with a spirit of fear, because people don't overcome things when they are overcome with fear. And I want people to acknowledge the things they're grateful for, acknowledge the wonderful things in this world that still exist, acknowledge the blessings that we see every day and the power within ourselves to change it all.
Wow. Well, yes. Well, yes, everything you just said. Well, you know what? I am so excited, for this episode. So happy to talk to you and have you come on here and talk about your magazine, talk about your story, talk about the things that you're working on, because I think this is so necessary to focus on, the good things, right? Because it's easy to focus on what's going wrong. But I think what you're doing and you're doing with your magazine, I was excited to have you on. I was excited to talk to you, and I'm like, she's coming on. She's going to tell us all about this because we need to hear it, honey. So
thank you. I'm so glad that we met, and
yes.
It's amazing how things work out, and, and how we connected. And I'm proud of you too for starting this, because, this is what we need to do. Bond together as humans, bond together as women, bond together as sisters, and help each other, help each other through this fight.
Yes. Always. Always. So tell everyone, where can they go to get in touch with Miranda Girl
So
Magazine?
oh my gosh, I have Instagram, Miranda Girl Magazine, my Facebook page, my business page, Michelle 2.0, mirandagirlmagazine.com. And then you can always find me, shoot me an email, and subscribe to the magazine, or go on to mirandagirlmagazine.com, hit the subscribe button, and you'll get every issue. It's digital, so you can read it anywhere. You can share it with your friends and family if something hits you. So yeah, I'm everywhere.
Yes, she is, guys. So go check her out. She is amazing. She is beautiful. She is doing the best things out here. So go check it out. And thank you so much, Michelle Miranda, for coming on the podcast. It was amazing talking with you, and I cannot wait to put this episode out.
I know. Thank you very much. It's been an honor, and I'm grateful we were able to do this. So thank you very much.
Yay, of course. All right. Well, bye, guys. And bye, Michelle Miranda.
Bye.
Bye.